Empower 11, the best of its kind in a highly transformative time. Are you empowered? Ready to turn your life up to 11? Awaken the life of who you are on the inside to match the life you were meant to live on the outside. Empower 11. Now is your time.
Empower 11 Radio. Greetings and welcome to Empower 11 Radio. Today is, what is the date? Today is September 26th, and it is a not quite such a beautiful day here in Santa Barbara because the marine layer is in, and it won't be until a little bit later that the sun burns off in the clouds and lets its golden rays bless us. So, for more information about Empower 11, you can always go to empower11.com. That's empower and then the number 11.com. Keep those emails coming. We love to hear your input. Just send them to info@empower11.com. And you can always check out more from us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Empower11. And
you can hit the like button.
Yes. I am Jack Voorhees, and I am here today with the beautiful and talented and always radiant and smiling and just the picture of love, Ann Ribley.
And I am with this dynamic collaborator, Jack Voorhees, my awesome creative partner in both business and in my circle of love.
You know, hey, I'd like to mention that you guys can check out Ann's website at annribley.com because we just rebuilt that. I mean, still kind of tweaking it out, but there's a lot of...
there's I still got to add a lot more, but yeah. Yeah,
there's, but it's really coming along good. So, we've been that's one of the things we've been collaborating on. Our show today is about faith, and I have faith that it's going to be a good show.
I actually been hearing this all morning from him.
So Ann, what is faith to you?
Well, first I want to talk about that we're discussing and having a conversation about faith, and we're not focusing in on the religious aspect of faith. We're focusing in on the universal aspect of faith that does govern our lives, regardless of what your religious faith is.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about this versus that, or people's rituals or what have you. I mean, we're here to talk about how faith is an important part of having an empowered life, and just this conversation is about really kind of using that to empower yourself.
Yeah, so I see faith as that universal, unifying field, and it's the field that exists within this power of the divine nature that unifies and supports all of life.
Yeah, it's a
supportive force. It's a supportive understanding, even like a knowing.
It's, for me, it's kind of like a cooperation. It's like that I believe I live in a supportive universe, and that as I continue to live in truth, and I continue to share my best and always be working on my spiritual development and myself, that that the universe supports that and gives back, and what I need shows up when I need it.
Well, when you said collaboration again, didn't you, with that? word with faith. That reminds me, and it had such a profound effect on me, in the movie Phenomenon with John Travolta. And it was written by the writer Jerry DePago, which I just love his writings. I actually got to do a mentorship under him with some writing work. His part in the movie Phenomenon, where he's moving the pencil, and he said, and they ask him, how are you doing that, moving that pencil? And he said, I don't will it or force it. He goes, it's a collaboration. And I mean, that's a storytelling sort of extreme, but we really truly, faith is this collaborative experience that we're having with our world. And the more we can imbue ourselves with this highly faithful, collaborative, supportive, knowing, understanding, then we connect to the unifying field of all of life that surrounds us. And we begin to create the rapport, which is what the Empower 11 symbol is about, which getting who you are on the inside, congruent and rapporting with what's going on outside in our world.
You know, from my years of recovery work, I often, like, people will come in and then they're just beat down and defeated, and you know, they'll say things like, I've lost faith. And there is no loss of faith. I mean, you cannot function in the world without faith. I mean, when you're driving down the road, you know, you're going 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour down this, you know, 2-lane road, and this other car is coming up in the opposite direction, and you pass each other just feet away, and we do this over and over again. I mean, the car could cross a line. That's happened before. I mean, plenty of times. But the thing is, we can't live in that. That's not a healthy way to live. We have to have faith in our life in order to in order to function.
Yeah, to navigate easy.
And those people that like don't, or the people that get less and less faith, I mean, that gets replaced by this fear, and this fear causes people to, you know, I mean, there's people that won't leave their homes. There's hoarders. There's people that are afraid of unnatural things. You know, whether it be, you know, bugs or whatever. You know, it's like a mental illness, and it's like a lack of faith, and being replaced by this fear.
It's paralyzing.
Yeah, and some say that fear is a lack of faith, and I think some of that is true, but I also feel like part of fear is a healthy response. You know, there's this fight or flight. There's this thing where we should be, you know, that helps us with our senses to navigate and survive in the world.
Awareness, yeah. Fear can help bring awareness in a certain level where we just are more not so dulled and numbed out to our surroundings and possibilities, that we're more aware and we're more able to respond appropriately. And it's not from a place of responding because we're afraid, but it's just being just aware.
Yeah, the problem is when fear gets in the driving seat. You know, I mean, that's the primary force. Is fear is it has too much control over your life. I mean, there's some things we have to go through without. I mean, we have to set fear aside in order to function. You know, there's something we can be doing something that's kind of scary to us, but we can't avoid it. I mean, we need to. You know, the only way through is through. So we have to continue on.
This reminds me, I mean, I know I'm so profoundly blessed that I was raised by parents who were pioneers in the healthcare industry. And in that, there was an extreme amount of faith that I was raised with, that health is normal and natural. And so because of that, a lot of the hysteria and fear that surrounds health, where people are afraid of cancer, afraid of all these elements to getting sick and disease, that fear actually perpetuates a weakened state to actually allow it to come in, because we've lost faith in our own ability to be well and to be strong in our wellness and to be healthy. And I know that I'm extremely blessed, because as people begin to know that truth, that we're meant to be healthy and we're meant to be well, and they understand it in their mind, a lot of times, because we're raised and it's commonplace and it's common thought to have so much fear about health and to be healthy.
Well, sure, the media just eats that stuff up, man. I mean, this serves it. I mean, it sells magazines, it gets ratings. So
I mean, it's taught to little kids very early on as to be, you're going to get sick. You're going to get sick. You do this. You go outside without your jacket on. You're going to get sick. I mean, these messages start so early on that by the time someone reaches an adulthood and they want to reclaim their health in a certain level, because they know that's the truth, they've got to then supersede all this fear that's been instilled in them to find that faith again to be healthy. And I know that I've been truly blessed, because that's my natural set point, is to have faith in that, the fact that we're meant to be healthy and thrive.
And I agree that's just I mean, it starts young, but it's just played on, for to have sales and more drugs and things like that, and the media, it's just crazy. You watch the news, and you're gonna get the bird flu, and you're gonna get attacked by killer bees, and there's some monkey thing, and there's this and that, and the mad cow, and all this stuff, and all this doom and gloom, and the world economy, and all this stuff, all this lack and everything that they show that's out there that is gonna get you. That's just not an empowered place to live.
It's interesting. Right now, we are getting an extreme amount of sunlight coming in. Yeah. It has burned through the marine layer. And what was interesting when you said that, Jack, is that the sun was there all along. And that's the same thing with our faith, is that just because it feels hidden, and like you said, people come in recovery and they feel like that they've lost it, but it's still there. It's there all along. And all we got to do is burn through all this noise that's either been placed in our minds, in our heads, and this noise of life, these experiences, which can be painful, that can cause us to lose faith, because we don't want to get into that. We don't want that fear of experiencing that pain again of life and being hurt by life.
Yeah, I know some people that have had like something happen in their life, and this fear or something, like all of a sudden they figured out that life was unfair, and that they've come to believe that they don't live in a supportive universe. And like I know one woman, her as a girl, her father died, and she just like turned. I mean, she's like just started hiding from life, scared of everything, scared to drive on the expressway, fearful of this, all this anxiety and everything, because her father died, and she wasn't able to accept it and go through a natural process. I mean, she just got into this fear zone and just wrapped around it like it was some kind of security blanket.
Well, I want to talk about how there's a lot of understanding that hope. First of all, faith is somewhere beyond hope. But then hope is not such a bad thing, because it's a precursor. It's a beginning point that leads to faith. If you can just have hope that your faith will return, and you begin moving in that direction towards faith.
I feel like hope is a little bit more in the mind, but it can be a decision point. When
it can lead you there.
When I came into recovery, I sat at a table, and it wasn't what this guy said. It was just kind of the presence that he had, like this comfortability in his own skin. And I got hope that could be me, like if this guy, was this biker, like a vice president of a bike gang, and all this, and he was able to get into recovery and stuff, and make it and get to this good place within himself that maybe it was possible for me too. So the hope was the mind kind of thing, and then the faith is more of the heart. It's more of something that's in your soul. It's not all this, doesn't require all this thought. And in fact, it's got to go beyond that, because when logical mind would say, hey, this, I'm doomed or whatever, but then there's this other part when you have this faith that can override all this noise in our head and just get us to a peaceful place where we can continue on.
Ooh, I have a really good idea from what you're just saying, Jack, is on the opposite end. How many times are we doing something and we know our true faith in the situation is speaking to us, call it your intuition, and yet we let our mind talk us out of it by saying, oh, you got to have faith, even though you shouldn't be doing something, or like the real faith resides in that heart place of what you're talking about, that inner knowing, those gut instincts, that place that we can get to that will give us good orderly direction, that God place. I love how you say that, Jack, all the time, that God is good orderly direction.
Right. The mind will try to justify a purchase, because the mind feels like it's going to fill some kind of a void or immediate need or whatever it is. But when our true gut knows that it is not, this isn't kosher, this isn't cool, but it's sometimes to follow that faith of our gut. Now, there's Richard Branson, billionaire entrepreneur. He suffers from dyslexia, and he goes into a business venture differently. He'll look at things. He'll follow his gut. All the accountants could be saying this or that. And yeah, I'm sure that plays into the decision, but. If he feels that it's good, it's a feeling that, he feels it to be good in his gut, then he'll be like, screw it, let's do it. That's his motto.
And then I say that on the opposite end, which is exactly the same point that you're making, Jack, is that when something sounds so logical and strategic and great, but your gut's telling you otherwise, that is your faith to follow your path. That's where true strength comes from. I look at
strength of character.
Yeah,
it's not all in the mind, the strength and character. It's who we are, who we naturally are. And that is a strong place to be. When we're in a place of truth, and we have faith in ourselves to move forward. That is strong character place to be.
That's how you empower really miraculous changes in your life, and you get in rapport in this empowered 11 state. And Steve Jobs lived a perfect example of that, where he had that true faith in his abilities to bring forth certain creations and innovations and ideas. Martin Luther King was another. His life example to me just always just gives me so much humility, and the power that we have in our strength of character is he had faith in humanity to make these civil rights changes that were based on truth. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between blind faith and truthful faith. We're blind. Oh, do you guys have something?
No, well, what is it? Well, what do you think is the difference between this blind faith? And what is blind faith and what is true faith?
Well, I think, blind faith is back to that earlier part we were talking about, where, your real truthful instincts are saying one thing, which is that guiding system towards our faith. But then the mind, talks you out of it. and then you go against your instincts, which will lead you to a stronger path when you follow those instincts by saying, oh, well, I just got to have faith. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. But it's a place of the mind that talks us into it. That's like blind faith. This is when people are just lining up and following, some leader that they don't even really, on a true inner knowing, know the real truth of what they're even following.
So like a blind faith is like a mind faith? That's what you're saying?
Ooh, that's good, Jack. Yeah. It's something like that. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Or we tried to intellectualize it, or we tried to, come up with some logical reasoning why this made sense, try to convince ourselves of it, but it's not in the place of a gut. But what is it? Some though will have this place of faith that comes from their gut, but it's not in a place of truth. I mean, there's some that, like I believe, in Hitler, I mean, he believed that they were the superior race and they had to eliminate everyone else. And I mean, but that just wasn't truth. So, I mean, there's this balance between logical mind and reason. Mm-hmm. And then there's this balance between, our gut and our, what's in our special place in our soul and stuff. And there's a reason why we have both. And there's balance. And, sometimes some can be out of whack, I mean, like this place of faith. I mean, when we have faith in something that isn't true, I mean, it's not coming from a place of truth. And I always know it for me. I mean, like, does it harm anybody?
I was going to say, it comes down to faith is aligned to the supportive force. So when you're saying that, what's the karmic effects of this? Mm-hmm. And when we're in this place of true faith, it's karmically good. And it's good for those around us. And it's in that empowered 11 state where we're in rapport with that oneness of who we are on the inside and out into the world.
Right. I mean, it's always like, it's a good place when it's like a win, 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 win. There's something that keeps, that it isn't like I, have to take away from somebody else in order to get this, and I'm going to give only to certain individuals and, things like that. It's, I don't know if I'm being too vague here. I might be just kind of rambling a little bit here, but the thing is, good faith. I mean, this God, this good orderly direction. I mean, it's the key word is good.
Yeah. Good
for you, good for others, good for the world.
And it's a supportive force that ties to the unifying field of a harmonious life in that empowered 11 state.
So, why is faith so important? I mean, what is the power of faith? Why do we need faith? What is the empowering force of faith?
Well, that's, as we've talked about, that aligns to the supportive powers of the universe, and it's a huge source of strength. And so for any of us to emulate our best life, when we look at these really admirable people, they're imbued in a strong sense of faith. And I do believe that when we get in tune with that, we begin to synchronize with our world around us. And that's where the magic comes from. And that's where we begin to have, miraculous serendipity start to show up. And our whole life should become this miraculous serendipitous experience. And that happens for those in the place of faith.
Right. I mean, it is a huge force of strength for myself. I know that, and for others. But right now, like I'm doing a project right now, and it's beyond anything I've ever done before. It's like what I've done before up to this point is maybe considered like kindergarten level, and now I'm in college. With this, and nobody's ever done it. I've never done it. It's just it hasn't been done before, but I know it can be done, and I know I can do it. And now it's just it's having that faith, that I can I continue to call upon my faith in order to keep me going and keep me doing it. It's like, what it takes in order to get something done. Like in this case, is something that I don't have right now. So there's some knowledge that I don't have right now that I need to acquire in order to get there. But I have faith that I can get that knowledge, and I can do that. And inventors have that. Inventors, they work out, like, this should work, and they work it out in the mind, But then there's this spot where it's like, okay, I've planned it, and then there's this force where the faith comes in. And the faith is that, yes, I can build this and I can make this happen. I can make the light bulb. I've mapped it all out. This should work. I believe this to be truth, and I have faith that I can do it.
Well, that is the same way we recalibrate our lives and redesign our lives in any capacity, is that the same way an inventor does and a creator does, is that we begin to invent and create on the inside of us the way we want our life to be, and to get into that place and take the necessary actions one step at a time in the presence of the now. Faith exists in the now. We lose our ability to build the momentous change we want, and that the momentous change happens by moment, moving in that direction with this presence of now. Because where we lose our faith is when we take ourselves out of the now, with our fears, with our anxieties, with the what ifs, with I hope it does, what if it doesn't?
The past is the biggest killer, I think. It's like, because if we're holding on to the past, that anchors us to the past, and it keeps us from moving forward. But it's also the same thing as like future tripping, like it's this, life is what happens when we're making other plans. This thing about, we need to have visions, and visualize where we want to go, but we can't hang out in there. The action happens in the now. All the action happens in the now. It doesn't happen in the past. It doesn't happen in the future. So that means the power is now. And having the faith to say, hey, I'm showing up for it. I'm here, present and accounted for. I'm taking the proper action in the moment. And it's these little pieces of actions, these little things that we do that add up, these building blocks that build the castle.
Well, this is where, you get into like the laws of physics, where you got inertia, where something is staying still. And what is it, is the question I ask, for all of us today, is what areas of our life is staying still that we need to take those little pieces of action, like what you're saying, Jack, and begin to move out of that state of inertia where it's just keeping it stagnant or still, and begin that movement. And that movement happens moment by moment, and that creates the momentum to create monumentous change. And what is it right now is the question, all of us to look at in our lives. What area of our lives has been stuck? Is it relationships? Is it money? Is it our career? Is it a relationship with a family member that's been stuck in this certain pattern of inertia, that it needs that source of faith activate this piece of movement and action to get it moving in this now moment?
Call upon faith in order to empower yourself to move forward in this, break free, overcome.
Stir it out of that inertia. That's what you need. And then you're using the laws to get movement happening.
All right, we're going to continue with this, and in a minute here we need to give this quick commercial break to Spreaker. If you want to have your own radio show, you can do it too with Spreaker, and we will be right back. And we're back with Empower 11 Radio. We want to thank you for tuning in. More information about Empower 11 is available at empower11.com. That's empower11.com. You can always catch our radio show by podcast on iTunes. It's you can listen to all our past shows, and I think today is our 25th show. So there's plenty to choose from, plenty of topics out there.
And you can hit the subscribe button. Then it automatically keeps you in tune and download it with the Empower 11 radio shows.
Right. So, today we're talking about faith, and one of the things I wanted to mention is this: this faith isn't just a place where we say, like, well, I'm going to sit on the couch and watch TV and have faith that my life's going to get better when I'm taking no action whatsoever.
That's blind faith.
Yeah, faith is like it's like a tuning fork. So on one side of the tuning fork is the things that you can do, and on the other side of the tuning fork is the things that you call upon the universe to support you with. So these things start vibrating in harmony, but it's up to you to take the action. You start, you do your part, and then have faith that the rest is going to show up.
I love that, Jack, because we actually have an Empower 11 manifesting form that's based on how to just itemize that or, get clarity and detail that out in your life. So if anyone is interested, put in the subject line and we can send you over the PDF form so that you could actually write that down on how to do the tuning fork idea of imbuing more faith into your life by doing your part and asking for the universe, for God, the divine, to help the creator, to help bring forth the other areas. So in the subject line, put down manifesting form, and we will send that over to you free.
Yeah, that's info@empower11.com. Okay, so here's one of the things that I really like about this show. And I really like about everything that we're doing with Empower 11. It's not just talking about the problem. It's not just bringing awareness to something that needs to have more awareness. It goes beyond that. We give you how-tos, tips, and whatnot in order for people to empower their lives and change. And things that have worked for us, we want to share those with the world. And far too often you just hear just this going on and on about what's out there and the problem today with the world and this and that and everything. But we are, I like to hang out in the solutions. I like to hang out in the place that's more empowering than just going over and over and over. And some people just like to hear themselves talk, and I'm not necessarily one of those people. I like to see change. I like to see people rising up, people grabbing a hold of something and moving forward with it. I love to see these miraculous transformations that people have. And nothing turns me on more than watching people rise up. So we want to give you some of the how. So how do you use faith to empower you? And not just like, oh yeah, having more faith is going to empower me, so I just need to have more faith. But what are some steps that you can do in order to have more faith in your life, or in order to use faith more effectively in your life?
Well, I think you just gave away one of the big secrets there, Jack, and that's not hang out too much in the past. Because I know that when you and I were first getting together and building our lives together and coming together and creating our home together and our family life together, I'd been married for 18 years, which is a long time with a person, and different things would come up that would relate to my past, and you would say, I want to hear about us. I want to hear about the now. And, I lovingly embraced your wisdom in that habit that we have to hang out in the past for whatever reasons that the past happened that's caused us to be where we're at today.
Yeah, I remember telling you that, listen, Ann, this is not a new chapter of an old book. This is a completely new book, and you make the title. And you have the power to title it what you want and have an entirely new book.
And I knew that about my life. I really did. But that vulnerability that I felt in a relationship, after just getting myself in a place where I was okay with being rebuilding and redoing my life, and then now I was going to start into a relationship again, there was vulnerability I felt, and it related somewhat to the past. And then when you said, look, Ann, we're not another chapter, we're a new book. And it's just that freeing. I mean, you said that, and just the way you would always lovingly say, I want to hang out in our now and what's going on now. It doesn't really matter what happened to you. And you know, Jack, you would say this not in a way to negate any of my feelings, but I mean, that's a big secret that you just, in a how-to, is if you find yourself hanging out in the past too much, what you're doing is you're robbing yourself and the ability to be empowered with the faith of the now.
Yeah, where the past, empowers us is when we remember the tools that we've developed to live, our most empowered lives. We've developed these tools over time, and we do work in the past so that we don't have to continue to do work in the now and in the future. We don't have to continue to do that. So if we learn from the past and we move and we go on and we bring those tools with us, that's an empowered place to be. But when we're hanging out in the past, with worry, with fear, bringing that to the now, afraid of the past repeating itself, any of these things that start to come up. I mean, we can look at the things that really can elicit that with how that happens with money. I mean, that can cause people to have a physiological reaction when they're afraid of the past repeating. Right. And I think I've told this story before about the fear, being replaced with faith, so some of it is, I had this situation where I didn't like what was going on with these partners that I was working with and stuff in this one business, and I said that, I was actually offered another opportunity somewhere else. So I said to these people, hey, unless this, and this happen, then I'm out of here. And they said, okay. And they, let's do this, and let's make these changes. And the deal is that, because if I would have just had faith earlier and not had to have that backup, thing, and I would have come in and say, hey, this, and this need to change. And, and I'm not settling for anything less. This has to change. Then I could have most likely gotten the results much sooner, but because I didn't have necessarily that faith in that moment, and I didn't get it until later, I kind of robbed myself of that time. Having faith in yourself is very important, but having faith that you live in a supportive universe and that you in tune with this supportive universe is a powerful force.
Yeah, I mean, my story that happened, and I did mention this on a previous episode, was with the home that I had. It got into this really complicated situation where the mortgage was in my former husband's name, but the kids and I were living in it, and it was just a crazy, complicated situation. But what happened was, the house, because I was not down on the mortgage, I didn't have any ability to make the changes that I needed to stay in the home, but the house got foreclosed on. But what was really interesting is that there was a long time gap, and there was nothing that I did really that influenced directly that time gap on how the kids and I got to stay in this house much longer than any kind of logic or strategy could have came up with, until it was time for us. And when the resources and the money and everything just synchronized at the right time, when we actually had to leave the home, and it all came into perfect timing. Now, people would say to me over and over again, I really had faith at that time in my life. I had faith that the boys and I would be taken care of, because I knew I was following the truthful way, and I had full faith. I mean, this is one of the most powerful faith experiences I've had in my life, that it was so out of the box of logic, but so in the truth of faith that people would say to me all the time, well, Ann, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to, I heard this over and over again as if I didn't have a plan or a backup plan in a way, but I just had faith it was going to work out in its own timing. And it was weird because there was this title mix up that happened, which gave me a whole nother year in the house. I mean, it was crazy. And it's so, people would look at it like, how is that happening? How is she still able to live there? And it was just interesting how when we get into that faith, sometimes even when we don't know exactly that backup plan, but our faith is our backup plan, and it's from the truest place that you know, because I really didn't have another angle I could take other than to have faith and make those decisions by moment. And what happened was when it was time to move, it's like all the financial resources were there. I mean, it was just so divine in its synchronicity. And we have that capability.
Yeah, I mean, that leads me to one of the tools that I use in my life, and that's when I need to give it up and hand it over.
Yes.
So like when it's too much for me right now, you know, the sometimes the weight of the world can be really heavy, and I have to hand that off to my higher power and say, you know, listen, too much for me right now. I just need to have faith that you're going to hold on to it, and I'll continue to do my part. And there's a time when you're going to hand that back to me when I'm able to have the resources or whatever I need in order to continue moving forward and living my best life. So this kind of like surrendering of this thing, like it's too much for me. That's it. You got to handle it right now, because I cannot live and continue to function to my best ability with all this worry. You know, I can't do it. So, handing it over. That's an important tool, and asking for help.
I got a great idea, Jack, because I know we've shared this on previous episodes. But we're 4 days away. On the 30th of this month is a full moon. And that's during the time of the full moon is that which is dark, we bring light to. And this is the time and place where you can write down a list of that which you want to surrender, what you need help with, what you want to give up, that's too heavy for you to carry yourself on the day of the full moon.
Yeah, you relinquish.
Yeah, you relinquish it to the powers that be, to the great universal loving presence that exists. And what happens is you'll find you'll get lighter, and solutions will begin to emerge for you. And the synchronicity, I mean, I did this over and over again every month when I was in this really strong mix up with how I was going to do things with where I was at with my home.
Well, you did it then, but you continue to do it now.
Because it works.
Yeah.
It's magical. So, all of you listening, I invite you just to write out your list of anything in your life that you would like to surrender, give up, hand over to this that's too heavy for you to carry.
Relinquish, let go, and write it down, and and then we burn it. We write it down and then we burn it. And we
put it in the fireplace.
We say be gone or relinquish. And,
yeah. And you're just surrendering it. So this is a really powerful how to change up that energy, imbue yourself with more faith.
Right. So, so I touched on it a little bit earlier, but acknowledging that you do have it, that you do have faith, so like I am a person that has faith, and, it was amazing when, these people would come into the recovery and say, I don't have any faith. And then I would kind of use that example of driving down the road and cars coming at them, and that they do have faith. Their faith is there, and watching them use that, and just the acknowledgement of, oh yeah, I guess I do have faith is, it's like a little light starting to shine inside of them.
It's such a great analogy about driving down the road, Jack, because, he's even used this on Cody, our youngest, who gets scared of the boogeyman kind of things. And it's like, well, what if they come in like when I'm sleeping, and all the what ifs can really get him paralyzed in fear. And Jack's just like, you got to have faith. And he's like, well, what if I don't have faith? And so then Jack even uses the analogy, you get in the car and you trust that we're going to drive down the road and we're going to safely get to our destination and we're not going to be hit by other cars. So you already have faith in you, buddy. You have faith in you.
Yeah. And that's and the truth is you have more than you think. It's amazing how people can get into a bad situation. They just, haven't prayed in a long time and stuff, and they just start praying, and praying is part of practice. It's a practice of faith. And that's one of the things that we really need to do to keep our faith strong.
Ooh, I like that. That was awesome, Jack. Praying is a practice of faith. Mm-hmm. Very good. And that comes to where I find soothing mantras, mantras that soothe our soul. That's like a form of prayer. That's a practice of faith, and finding those mantras and finding those ways to be soothing and making our prayer be the practice of our faith of our life, and let it be a statement of greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's strong, and some people I think feel that prayer is kind of a weakness thing, like they should be able to take it on themselves. But prayer is just a connection with your higher power, and that's an important thing to have. It's an important piece of faith. So another thing that I like to use that really helps me get in tune with my higher power and gets me to this place of more of a stillness and in a serenity is to get out in nature. And we're lucky here that it's a beautiful area, California, and we have the mountains and everything, and we have the ocean. And just going out to the ocean for me can really help me get into this really good place, because just this vastness of the ocean and the sound of the waves and just being in that atmosphere just helps me to get into this really good spiritual place and be connected to my higher power and infuse this force of strength in my life.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because that's what Deepak Chopra, I read this years ago, and it always stuck in my mind, is that he said, that the way to get back in tune with ourselves, which is where our faith is to go out in nature, because that's the closest to how you can just return to your own nature, which is of that faithful nature in yourself, in life. And he said that the ocean is absolutely one of the quickest ways to get into that in-tune synchronistic ways, because of the waves, the ebb and the flow. Mm-hmm. And so I know we're very lucky to have access to that so quickly. But, even going and sitting out underneath of a big, massive tree, you can feel that energy, and just going out into the stillness and hearing the birds. And there's a lot of sanctuary we could take to inside ourselves with just going out in nature.
Yeah, when I go and I swim my laps in the morning, I walk up to the clubhouse where the pool is, and we live on this beautiful golf course and in this country club, and we're very blessed. And when I'm walking up there, I look at the sky and I look at I get in tune with what's around me, and I call it my gratitude walk. Mm-hmm. It's like I get, it's just a place of gratefulness. I'm looking at the sky. I'm paying attention to the smells and the fresh air and all of that, and that really helps me to stay in a place of a good spiritual fitness.
Yeah, I call it spiritual posture. Faith is what helps us take on that strong spiritual posture, where we're standing upright and we're tall and we're really standing in this high posture to our life. And if you look at someone who doesn't have faith, it's a very horizontal, beaten down posture, which is not what where we were meant. That's not our glory. That's more of the primitive, more animal, on all fours, horizontal kind of place, and we're meant to be upright and vertical and shine in our glory, and that comes when we imbue ourselves with strong sense of faith.
And the stillness, is it's just a serene place to be, and you can get into the stillness place with this meditation. This practice of meditation. I mean, that is a very spiritual practice, and that's really a place that you can get in tuning. You can really get that tuning fork really in a nice deep hum, and through this this deep breathing, this rhythm and flow. Everything is moving. Everything is breathing. The waves come in, the waves go out, the tide comes in, the tide comes out, we breathe in, we breathe out, the sun comes up, the sun goes down. Everything is in this flow. And when we get ourselves into this flow, that is it's a place of ease. It's not a place of force. It's a cooperation, collaborative, like we were talking about earlier. It's this just understanding that we're in this kind of environment. That we're going to live, we're going to die. People are going to be born today. People will die today. This is a part of life. It's interesting. We just this guy I knew just passed away, and he passed away kind of early and stuff. And some would say it was a tragedy, and it's like, I don't think that that's a tragedy. That's a part of life. That's just the natural rhythm and flow. What I found more of a tragedy was finding out that a guy I know that came into recovery around 14 years ago when I did, went back out. That's a tragedy.
Went back out drinking or using.
Yeah, that's the tragedy. That's where somebody has a gift and then doesn't honor it.
Well, what's a tragedy to you about his story is that his recovery leading a clean and sober life, is he uncovered a lot of brilliance and genius work he had.
Yeah.
And that was, you were like, he was one of my favorite success stories because when he stopped using and drinking, all of a sudden this genius that was brilliant emerged.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who was living underneath the lifeguard tower in Venice Beach, and he was able to pull himself out and overcome and all this, and then he stopped going to meetings, and it's just, you hear the story all the time, but that's the tragedy. It's not when somebody honored the life that they were given and died early or whatever happens to people. That's just natural. I mean, that'll happen. We don't know. None of us know when our last day on earth is. I mean, it's every day is to be honored, and honoring it is an expression of faith.
That's good, Jack.
Yeah. So, Ann, I wanted to also mention about, we talked about having faith in yourself. We talked about having faith in the universe and how the universe supports you. But we didn't talk about having faith in others. And that is a strong thing to empower yourself. I mean, when you have somebody who's a partner or a friend or something that you have faith in, then that works for them. When people have, and also for you, when people have faith in you, that can help you. It can help to empower you. But also having faith that people are human, and people make mistakes and stuff. There's some people that, like, oh, this one person did this thing and they're off the list. They're no longer my friends, and you'll find yourself out of friends pretty quickly. Because people are human, and I am human, and I make mistakes, and I say the wrong thing sometimes, or I blurt out something that maybe I didn't use that nanosecond to stop and think a little bit more about what I was saying, or how I was saying it, or when I was saying it, or whatever I was doing. But the thing is, to have a group of people or a supportive partner that you have faith in is very powerful.
Yeah, I know that's a big issue in a lot of even marriages on a little level. I mean, we can take and scale the having faith and trust in somebody with the big things, but on that daily level, where is your faith with your partner? You know, where is your faith with you on those little small daily levels? And just check in with that and find the ways that you can be in an honest. This is not about turning it into blind faith. This is about into that honest, truthful faith within yourself, so that you can amp up and empower your faith stronger. So, you know, look in your daily life, look at the ways that you can empower it stronger in you, the circle of people that you're with, starting with your partner, if you have one right now, or with your close friends and family.
So we're running out of time, and in fact, we're going to go a little bit over. We're going to end with an inspirational audio that I've played on here before, but I think it's fitting for today. It came from a letter that I wrote to myself when I was going through a transition a couple years ago, and I just made it into a inspirational audio. You can actually get it for free on empower11.com. Just opt in and you'll get it for free. But I want to end with that. So, Ann, you want to take us out like you normally do?
Yep. I thank you for joining us today, spending this hour together with you. We have a lot of gratitude and appreciation to be able to share and enjoy this conversation with you. Wherever you're at in your life right now, I ask you just to slow down, take a few deep breaths, whether you're sitting at your desk or you're driving in your car or you're just at your home doing activities. Just take a few deep breaths and allow these words to penetrate and emerge deeply into that place of faith inside of you, to know that you are destined to be empowered with greatness. And it begins with having faith in yourself. And we'll see you next week. Enjoy.
Bye now.
Believe in yourself. You have everything you need. All the gifts and tools have been provided. Old, unhelpful patterns slip away and are being replaced by powerful new enlightenment. Let go of resistance and trust the process. All is being achieved with ease and flow. Magnificent forces are conspiring in your favor. Yes, the world is out to get you exactly where you desire to be. Your life is becoming more magnificent every day. Today, on this day, that is your day, you make your decision to take ownership of your life. For this is your day. Own it. This is your week. The best week of your life. Own it. This is your month. The most amazing month of your life. Own it. This is your year. The most incredible, abundant year of your life. Own it. This is your decade. The most outstanding, beautiful decade of your entire life, and you own it. This is your life, and you own every moment of it. You know your purpose. It is to follow Source. The voice deep from within you knows. The voice that for whatever reason has been quiet until now speaks up and guides you. stand tall and walk with pride on this journey you have chosen. Be proud of who you are and where you are going. Being humble does not mean denying your greatness. This is your time to rise up and unleash the power inside of you. The floodgates are open, and nothing can prevent this mighty force Source has given you. It is on. Your creativity holds no bounds. Your ideas become things that are real, that are tangible, and that are alive. You live an intentional life by design. No one has the power to get you off your game. You own it. Those who are not traveling with the spirit that supports you will slip away, and you will bear them no ill will. Source is sending the right people into your life at the right time, and it's happening. All who are around you benefit. This is the time. This is your time, and your time is now. Believe in yourself. You have everything you need. All the gifts and tools have been provided. Claim it. Own it. Live it now.